back to our third episode of Black Lives Matter, White Privilege. If you didn't see the first two episodes, oh my goodness, you got to go and view them. We kind of like we kept going. We couldn't stop because we had such wisdom in the room with our special guests. So this time we're going to talk about where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? We've talked about why Black Lives Matter. We've talked about white privilege. And, you know, with the heaviness that's on us right now, Roger was saying a few minutes ago that during Al Sharpton's eulogy of George Floyd, that we're at this pivotal point that nobody's ever seen before.
Right.
And so there's got to be something after 401 years of this type of treatment. Something has to break.
Right.
So Ronald, share with us what you had something that was on your phone.
I posted something to Facebook earlier this week, and it says, it's a little girl holding a sign, and it says, "We said Black Lives Matter. We never said only Black Lives Matter. We know all lives matter. We just need your help with hashtag Black Lives Matter, because Black lives are the ones that are in danger."
Yeah.
I believe that where we go from here is, I believe you go to truly trying to understand, truly spending time doing your research. As one of the young adults that I know said from New York earlier today, she said, "We're not responsible for teaching you. You are responsible for learning."
Right.
You are responsible for Google. Google is free all over the whole world. Google is free every day, all day, 24/7. Google research, do your homework, and find out. I heard Kenny Smith, the basketball analyst, say that from TNT. Do your homework. Spend time researching. Nobody, don't get defensive because people say Black Lives Matter. Because this is a 400 some odd year problem.
Right.
It's not more. And these Trayvon, Arbery, Tamir Rice, and all of these others,
Orlando.
Brown, these are just names that cover thousands of stories. Thousands. If you ask every mother, all the different mothers who didn't get this public notice, but because of social media or TV, there are thousands in this situation who've been taken prematurely, shot and killed. Martin Luther King, most notably, because he wouldn't be quiet. They robbed Martin of his life because he wouldn't be quiet.
Right.
So, you know, they equated peace and quiet to be the same thing, and that's not the case. So where do we go from here? I think understanding, I think truly getting involved with, not being defensive, and truly being open, having an open mind to listening and to learn and to understanding this experience. And see, here's the thing, Roger, here's the thing, Joy and Lindsay, just because we speak English doesn't mean we have the same culture.
Right.
And a lot of people don't want to accept African American culture. I'm not talking about Japanese, Korean, Native American, or Hispanic. I respect all of that. What I'm talking about is the African American culture that has been resilient, creative, unbendable, unbreakable. I'm talking about our culture, okay? So get some go to get some cultural competency classes, for diversity classes, because it's not our job to educate you. It's our job to be loving and kind and neighborly.
Right.
But you.
And I would add to that, when you look at a bouquet of flowers, you see all the different colors in that bouquet.
Right.
We have to see color.
Yeah.
There are many people that say, I don't see color. I hear that.
I was just kidding. Yeah.
But I hear it more
Yes.
so from the majority than I do the minority.
That's
because the
right.
minority wakes up color. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and not saying that, you know, my brother says you don't have color, but we
Right,
have color. But
We're with you.
how can you see a beautiful bouquet and then go blind towards that beauty?
Come on now. Woo, preach,
You
man.
know what I'm saying? So when you see Hispanics, Asian Americans, African Americans, Native American Indians, Laotian, whatever, Samoan, East Indian. I was so excited when I was looking at CNN and they were showing all over the world people are protesting.
Yes.
And
It's amazing.
I was drawn to New Zealand because we've been there twice.
Yeah, I saw that in New Zealand. Yep.
The Maori people, who are the indigenous people there, are considered the blacks.
Yep.
And they were doing their whole dance with their protest. Yeah. And it was just I was riveted to it because I know when we went over there, they were like, well, what do you guys consider an American? I said, well, we're considered the blacks. And they're like, no, we're the blacks. And so they didn't know what we were. We're the blacks of North America. You guys are the blacks here. Okay. But they're beautiful. They're beautiful. So my point is we have to see color and we have to celebrate.
Right.
We have to celebrate color.
Yes.
Because that's what makes the bouquet beautiful. That is the differences.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. What about for you guys?
Well, so I was just going to say there are words and actions and phrases that often people say, and I hate to say it, but I will say it, that white people say that I think tend to, send the message that this isn't a big deal. There's not racism anymore. I had somebody that I dearly love said, racism's not a thing anymore, is it? I mean, didn't we deal with that already? And so therein lies the thing of right, there's just a lot of people who really, like we were for so long, we didn't know what we didn't know. But those kind of actions, I've heard people often say, I don't see color. And I go, I do. I love color. I love the beauty. I love the diversity, you know? So, I mean, we need to rethink about evaluate, and you need to tell us. So here I'm gonna go back into this. One of the most important things for me that has changed me by far and away more than anything else is having dear friends like you guys. Having a neighbor, Fred Whitlow, African-American guy, and he'll sit in our living room and he'll give us the narrative. He'll give us true history, and we'll say, we never heard that that was not in our textbooks. We never heard that in our all-white school. We never even heard that in our family. And I'm not dissing any of them. I'm just saying that was the reality of it for whatever reason that we won't go into. But the thing that has impacted me the most is being able to say to you, Lindsay, can I say that word? Is that okay? Does that sound bad to you? Are you offended by that? Am I just saying some white remark that is really offensive? You know what I'm saying? So those are the kind of situations where we sit down over coffee, we sit down over a meal, and we don't just say, I got a token black friend. Oh yeah, I love black people. I love brown people.
My best friend is a black person. That's like the worst thing.
Right. And I said that one time in a group where we were the only white people. I made the mistake of saying, you gotta have a black friend, and they all turned on me and went, don't say that, in love. And they said it in love. They said, because to us that sounds like you're saying, I got a token black friend. So, but here's the thing, I wouldn't have known that had I not been immersed and engaged in relationship with people who don't look like me. And when I say relationship, I mean a friendship. We go out to eat together. We talk about deep things together. We share our lives together. And we say those honest things like, when you said that, that hurt my feelings. Or you may not know that, but our people don't like that or something. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, and I think, and so another thing that is so important, because where we started learning and being able to first start even getting a glimpse of white privilege or that our white bubble even existed was when we started engaging and moving toward friendship. You can't make friendship, you can't manufacture it, but we began moving towards Black brothers and sisters, and we have been very graced to have been received by a number who've opened up their lives.
Thank you.
But it's not just then us sitting down and say, well, explain all your story. Well, here's the thing, what happens is when you're sharing life, the stories emerge. To give you an example, I will never forget, this was significant, probably 4 or 5 years ago. I'm talking with a Black friend of mine, and there were a couple of us who were gonna, out in the country, we were staying at a lake house, and we were inviting him to come out, and he said, well, it's gonna be late before I could get, I said, well, you can just come out later that night. And he said, as matter-of-factly as possible, oh, I couldn't drive after dark. I couldn't drive out in that area.
That's right.
And here's the thing: he didn't pause for effect. And then he just went on to say next thing. And I'm sitting there, and suddenly in my mind, I'm going, I've never thought that way. Now, this wasn't my friend saying, do you understand all of what I've gone through?
Right.
Just because I was doing life with him, I just came across, oh my goodness, he's encountering stuff.
Yeah.
Not making a big deal, but it's when you're having that relationship, suddenly things were opening up, and it wasn't, I've never felt the need, I've got to sit down with the Black friend and say, tell me of all the wrong things that have happened to you, or tell me all or as you were saying, educate me, and so now, placing the onus on my Black brothers and sisters for an issue that we're more responsible for, and asking you to somehow share how we're supposed to fix that. Anyway, I just think where we go from here, one is, if you, talking about my white brothers and sisters, if you want to take a next step, you've got to move towards friendship and give it time. You're not forcing yourself, but you're going to spend time with, you're going to be with, listen, and when things get uncomfortable, don't disappear.
That's right.
Because they're going to get uncomfortable.
Speak.
He said, don't disappear.
You know what? And that's a beautiful point, Roger and Joy, but those are personal. There are systemic issues that need to be resolved too.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, for instance, the biggest one. Look at when the Constitution was written. Who was it written for? Now, I know we're not going to go back and change the Constitution, not really. But the Constitution wasn't written with Black folk in mind. That's not the way that was. Second,
They weren't the all people.
Right. Nor were the Native Americans.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Look at college football. The outdated laws in college football. The rules in college football. Talking about amateurism. Those came from a time when people were, Black folk, white folk were running things like crazy. They instituted those rules where you couldn't get paid to be an amateur athlete. That was never the reality for Blacks or Hispanics coming from, and especially in baseball, coming from the Dominican, coming from all these different parts of the world, and you can't buy your mother a pizza? You can't, the rules were just way out of whack. Thirdly, look at the way America was populated. Look at the way America was populated. When Black folk came in here during an agricultural time, and then it moved to technology. I heard this, me and my wife heard this the other day. Think about it. Black folk came here. Imagine the relationships we're in, guys, as a Monopoly game. All the rules,
that's what I said to you.
All the rules are set up by the majority culture.
Yep.
And then they're changed by the majority culture.
Yep.
So here's what happens. When people don't, because see, I think we need to speak to this.
Yes.
Those of you who are listening out there, when you talk about Black folk looting and rioting, that's not the protesters. The protesters are doing it peacefully, doing it organized. That's different. But understand why Black folk or people who are rioting and looting don't care about Target. Because Target's never been with them. What you call it, AutoZone? AutoZone's never been with them. You spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars at AutoZone. And when your need comes up, AutoZone doesn't walk with you. Target doesn't walk with you. They don't say we understand. They don't say we support you. And the persons who are rioting and looting have no investment in AutoZone. Why should they care? Why should they care about Target? They don't own it. It's not theirs. And remember that game of Monopoly? I think Lindsay sent it to you. It's deep. It's deeply real, Joy. That thing is real. When you don't have ownership in something,
right,
you have to admit to the original sin that nobody wants to deal with.
Well,
nobody wants to, I'm talking about on a bigger system.
Right.
Personally, yes,
right.
I get it. But there's a bigger reform and systemic reforms that truly need to take place.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just gonna piggyback off of the Monopoly analogy that you're playing Monopoly for 400 years and you don't own anything.
Yeah.
You don't own any of the, any of the park places. You don't own any of that. But you're playing the game.
But you're playing the game.
But you never get to collect $200 when you pass go. You're allowed. Wait a minute. You're allowed to play.
You're allowed to play.
But you don't get all the benefits.
No, you don't get the Monopoly money.
Not gonna last long.
You don't get the Monopoly money. You don't get any of that.
Right.
I was watching today on YouTube. I was watching Bond Court.
Yeah.
And I was watching all of the young people that were arrested during the protests. And 90% of them, African American, Hispanic, maybe 2 white. They sent them to pre-bond school or something like that, where they did release them, but they have to go through like this whole program and whatnot. But Ronald was like, why are you watching that? And I said, because I want to see what is happening on the other end.
Yeah.
You're peacefully protesting. You're out past the curfew, so you're breaking the law.
Right.
So what's happening on the other end? How much is your bail set at? $10,000? And you have no Monopoly money to begin with?
Right.
The systems have to be reformed, guys. And that's, so where do we go from here? I think white people truly need to be honest enough, join their brothers and sisters, and really say, some of these rules are very unfair. Some of this stuff is not even. Some of this stuff does not really apply anymore. I use football in the NCAA as an example to tell you that it's not fair that you're gonna make millions and millions and millions of dollars on the likeness of a child, of a young man, but that young man cannot buy a pizza with his own image.
Right.
So if you go to Duke University, they make, off of Zion Williamson, they make $50 million off of his jerseys. But he can't get $1,000 off of his name, off of his ability.
Wow.
Okay, because the science projects is not bringing millions of dollars into Duke.
Right.
Science scholarships aren't bringing the same type of scholarship money that these athletes are bringing. So I mean, Lindsay and I, and you guys, and we are talking about some of the, where can we go from here? I say be sensitive, be open-minded, do your own research. Like you said, have ongoing relationship.
That's right.
That does not allow you to run when it gets uncomfortable. I mean, you said a lot more than that. And then we're saying what? The reforms that need to take place in the criminal justice system and in the in a whole lot of systems that need to, the changes that need to take place. I mean, there's a lot more that could be said too.
Because when I think about the way forward, even what I hear you talking about, Ronald, is especially for my white brothers and sisters, before we can know the way forward, we got to know what the real story is about the past.
Mhm.
So for me, so I'm going to tell you this, and again, this was significant. You need to see documentary 13th, 12 Years a Slave, Just Mercy, but like 13th, for instance, or a book like The Strange Career of Jim Crow, or America's Original Sin, or Slavery by Another Name. Some of these books are going to tell you the story, let's say between slavery and now, that you never heard.
Right.
The idea that, okay, oh, well, slavery, that was a bad time. We didn't do so well there, but everything's been slowly getting sort of better. Where we are now is the product not only of an era of slavery, but the continual knee on the neck, every wave, every time Black brothers and sisters started to advance, started to move forward, another wave back, started to move forward, another wave back, I knew nothing about that history. Now, again, I'm going to talk to my white brothers and sisters. It's not on Ronald and Lindsay, because they're going to be fatigued by, and some of our Black brothers and sisters are fatigued by all that, give us the history. No, what you were saying, Ronald, go do the homework,
Right.
Go watch the documentaries, go read some of these books and so on, and find out the story you didn't grow up. And suddenly you start connecting dots and saying, what's going on here has a history. And if we're going to figure out what needs to change, we got to see actually
the pattern.
the patterns, and there's been a pattern anyway. So I think it is, we're going to have to take, there are plenty of resources out there. I'm going to tell you, written by Black brothers, white brothers, sisters, and if you're not a reader, there's movies when they see it, audiobooks. There's no excuse. Google what you said. There's no excuse for not knowing. But what often keeps us back is the discomfort, because you start, and I felt this when I started hearing a narrative that left me responsible, that left the majority community actually very complicit, because we were creating the systems that protected us, that served us, and so on. You're going to immediately feel discomfort by that. And what you're going to do is stop reading the book, turn the documentary off. You'll get 15 minutes into when they see us and you won't want to see it. And then you'll turn it off. You got to stay with it, whatever, and move past. And why is this pushback in me? Why am I resisting this? Well, it can be because you have responsibility. Because you believed a narrative that took you off the hook. The narrative is, anyway, so I'm just saying, we got to take some responsibility to learn the story of the last 400 years that you've been talking about. It's been your experience, not been my experience. I've got to learn the story through my friends that I'm making, and I'm hearing the world they're living in right now, but I also need to know the history behind how we all got to where we are right now.
That's right. And then
have understanding and compassion without truly trying. I said, you're not going to have any understanding and compassion without truly trying to put yourself in those shoes and understand what the shoes were like. And you've got to read books and watch movies that scare you about it.
Yes.
You know, that you're struggling to get through, and you're going to see some ugly stuff from your own heritage that you don't want to see, but you gotta. I tell you, it's painful, but you have got to.
Yep.
Go ahead, Lindsay. What?
No. I'm listening to what you're saying. It is painful. It's painful to have to rehash. Watching and viewing or reviewing your people being butchered. And you know, you and I off record talked about Tulsa, and we talked about the Rosewood. You know, and Roger, I say that because you said you'll see an advancement and then it's all swept away, and then you'll see an advancement and then it's all swept away. And a lot of it is swept away because there's fear that, and I'm gonna use a phrase that this one guy was speaking of. Who's the NBA guy that was speaking, that was the twin of George Floyd?
Steven Jackson.
Steven Jackson. So he's an NBA, right?
Ex-NBA player.
Ex-NBA player.
Yeah.
He was giving, they were doing a press conference, and he basically said, white America, you're afraid that we're gonna pull a you on you.
Oh,
He did.
oh, wow.
And it's been
We're
that
gonna
way for
pull
a
a
long
you on
time.
you.
Yep.
And that's what you're afraid of right now,
And
because
so that's why they keep the knee on the neck.
and that's why you had self-sufficiency, and you had progression, and you had Black people
Yes.
in Tulsa,
Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street,
All right.
and it was destroyed off of a lie.
Yeah.
Just like the lady that called on the man in Central Park. She knew her power.
That lady, what's her name? Coleman? Cooper?
I don't know.
Cooper?
But she, you know, the one that he asked her to leash her dog very politely, and then he started recording because she started getting crazy with
She
him.
said, I'm going to call the police and tell them I'm being threatened by a Black man
That's right.
who's telling her, stay away from me.
Right.
Put your dog on a leash. The sign says put your dog on a
Right.
Stay away from me, but put the leash on the dog, please.
So my point is, with the power that white people have, use that power for good
Yes.
and use it for truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
because
many Black people have been killed because they've been lied on.
And that's why Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here, one more thing, what can be done going forward?
Yes.
One more thing that can be done, baby. Stop saying that wasn't me. That was long before I was born.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
why
Thank you.
that when you
Thank
you.
watch those movies,
That institutionalism, the children, the grandchildren, the great grandchildren, the impact of that generational stuff, slavery, the mindset still lives today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
moved into Wall Street. It's moved into Manhattan. It's moved into mainstream business. It's moved into academia and laws. It's moved. It's what they call that, morphed.
Mm.
It's mutated.
Mm. Mm.
You see, and that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
So all of these are things that can be done.
Yeah.
Right.
I think what I feel empowered by though is when I'm watching the peaceful marches and the protests
Yeah.
outside,
Mhm.
that the millennials are rising up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've got just a sea of color
Mhm.
that is
Yes.
coming to
Back
the
to that,
forefront
okay.
now,
Mhm.
and it's saying,
Yep.
you know what, I don't want to carry that dirty water no more.
Mm-mm.
I want
Amen.
to use my power and I want to use my voice to stand up with my brothers and
Mhm.
sisters.
Amen.
Yeah.
One of the things that made me so sick was that nobody came to that man's rescue
To Mr. Floyd.
physically.
No, I know.
Right.
Everybody stood around because we're so conditioned to respect the police. And I still believe we should respect the police.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
his best friend was there. The EMT was there. Asked 16 times, check his pulse, let me check him.
Mm.
No one put their life on the line for that man to even
Yeah.
push that cop off. Okay, you're gonna get tased. Okay, you're gonna get blown away too, but nobody
Yeah.
did.
Even
Yeah.
though that man might have had some problems in his past,
Yeah.
don't white America justify him being killed.
That's right.
Right. Right.
Don't
Right.
justify him being tortured. Don't justify him having some record or some issues or whatever was in his bloodstream as an excuse
Right.
to kill this man on international TV.
Right.
Yeah.
Kill
Right.
this man, period, by putting your knee on his neck.
Yeah.
For 8 minutes and 46 seconds, there is no excuse.
Yeah.
Amen.
Going forward,
Amen.
there is no excuse to take his life and
Right.
here's what happens, Joy. Here's what happens, Roger. Here's what happens, baby. They'll see us, they hear us talking,
Mm.
and then they go talk about how our passion,
Mm.
how out of control we were, instead of talking about the issue. how emotional we were.
Because the narrative gets flipped.
And that's what Roger said.
It gets flipped
they flip the narrative
from the what, and it's supposed to be on the why.
Right.
That's what I wanted you to say. That's exactly what I wanted you to say, is people focus on the what right now so often about how it came out or the passion or the whatever, instead of, well, let's look at why is this like this. I heard this guy who was just in his early 20s sit there and say, look, I never experienced slavery and the things that may have happened in civil rights days and stuff. But he said, that's a part, it's African American guy. He said that just was a part though of our family. He said, I am who I am out of that whole, history of events and stuff. I mean, it's like bred into the family of what has happened, and you can't deny that part of you, and whether the grandmas and the mamas, share the stories, or hey, you got to be more careful than other people, like you guys had said in an earlier episode, you got to rise 2 or 3 notches above just to keep up, I mean, that's just, first of all, that's just so sad. But anyway, look at the why. Go back and look at the why. Don't just focus on the what and the passion. Look at the why.
That's why when Rodney King, they had videotapes of those cops beating the schnapps out of Rodney King.
Yep.
That's why Black America went bananas.
That's right.
That's why there were riots. Because there's something deeply wrong, morally, societally, and spiritually. And all 3 came together, biopsychosocial, spiritual. They all came together and culminated in that anger and in that outburst. The why was you have 4 police officers beating the schnapps out of this man, and they're all set free. Why did this uprising, why did this protest begin? Because if you had enough evidence to fire them, you had enough evidence to arrest them. And that delay is what upset millions of people around this globe.
Right.
That delay.
Yeah. But isn't part of the story too, and this is where, because again, we'll see the rioting and the rage, and I realized a lot of that isn't the protest. You got some other people in there, but some of that's in there. Okay, that's we're mixing there. And I don't hear anybody defending, there's nobody's defending that. But what I want to say is you're missing the point, and this is the whole thing of looking at the history. You're missing the point if you think that the anger is just about this incident. It's if you don't know the history and everything, it's the whole story. It's the culmination. It's the wave after wave. Okay, it was the time when we were owned, and then it was the time when we weren't considered fully human, and then it's the time when we started to make advancement, and we don't want you in our neighborhoods. Then it's the time when our Wall Street started doing great, so we're going to burn 30 blocks. Then it's when we're going to start being seen as equals. And so now we're going to have Jim Crow laws. It's when we're starting to make advances. So let's change the drug laws a certain way, and mass incarceration. And it's like wave after wave after wave. And you have a moment like this, and it's a flashpoint in a history. And so even when I see rage that gets out of control, right? Well, the Bible says the wrath of man doesn't always work the righteous. Be angry and sin not. But the anger is not just about an incident. And if you end up just looking at as horrific as 4 officers here killing a man on a street in Minneapolis, as horrific as Rodney King, it's the culmination of the stories. But if we don't know the history,
why?
Then it's, if we look at them all, this seems like an overreaction. This seems like I don't know, get off my box, but
But Roger, you're right.
No,
And
that's amazing. That's amazing.
That's it. I mean, you've articulated it beautifully because it's 3 dead Black men in less than 30 days.
Right. And a Black woman in there.
A Black woman.
Yes.
Right.
In the last 30 days.
Yep. Right. Oh yeah. No.
And,
no.
and then Cooper, the guy who's an animation specialist, could have been arrested. And then the attempt to dehumanize and to get him arrested for asking a white woman who was a top hedge fund president, vice president, whatever she was, to put your dog on a leash.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. There's only so much. And you know,
Right.
I heard you say,
There's a breaking point.
the blessing is that Black folk are looking for equality and not revenge.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's one of the reasons we know God is in charge.
Yeah.
If our folk were looking for revenge, there's nothing God can enjoy we could do to protect you.
Yep.
There's nothing we could do to protect you.
No.
It would be over. It would be done.
No. The graciousness from the Black community. And I realize that has been weaponized as a point too, where we just sort of expect, just forgive. But the kinds of grace that I've experienced, knowing now the stories that I know that I did not know, I didn't realize how gracious and patient what you just said, that there hasn't been this thing, there've been a voice or two here about revenge, but as a community, that's not what I'm getting from. You know what I'm hearing? Yeah, we're not looking for favors. We're not looking for handouts, whatever. We're just looking for the things to be equal. We're not looking for revenge. And I'm just saying that's been my experience as we've ended up moving towards our Black brothers and sisters more. I'm just saying just how really magnanimous that grace has been, how much I appreciate it. And I realize that's been exploited. I realize in the white community that's been almost expected. Okay, we're to step up once again, and but I appreciate that. I just want to say again, thanks, because that's been, we've experienced enormous grace that's highlighted by just how horrific so many parts of the story have been.
So those are the ways forward.
Those are the ways forward.
Right. It's all there it is, all simple.
I'll tell you what, Lindsay, I want you to
And
close
that's a
this.
wrap.
Yeah, and that's a wrap. I want you to close this out in a minute. But some of these things, Roger mentioned some books and some movies, and Ronald mentioned some stuff to do. We'll put this in somehow in a text, so that it'll be at the bottom or whatever, somewhere, just to give you some,
We can put it in below the disclaimer.
I know, below all the disclaimers. Y'all, thank you for listening. I know we've gone long, but this was too important of an issue, and it wasn't a 10-minute issue. It wasn't a 10-minute conversation. We're trying to cover 401 years, and that's just hard. So we need to have more conversations. Lindsay, close us out. Thank Ronald, Lindsay, Roger. Thank you for
Thank you for being our brother and our sister. We love you dearly.
Yes.
And thank you for having this candid, transparent conversation with us. And for those of you that are viewing, this was just, it was a wonderful way to just exhale. And I think on both sides.
Yeah.
And we just want to thank you, Roger, for being our special guest, and Ronald for you being our special guest.
Yes.
And the depth
Loved
that
it.
you
Thank you.
brought to no, we're not getting it on screen. So Sydney, cut that out. But anyway, we just appreciate just the friendship, and we appreciate your hearts.
Yes,
and we love you dearly. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for watching Meet Me in the Middle. We hope that you enjoy all 3 sessions or episodes. And keep watching, keep supporting, keep spreading the word, because we are trying to hit a lot of different issues and meet people right in the middle of where they are.
Yeah. God bless everybody. Love you guys. Love you all so much.
Yeah.
All right, take care.
You guys.
Yeah. See you.